Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Daily AI Show. Today, you're getting myself and Andy, and we are going to talk about generative AI agents. Right? We talked about agents in the past, Manus, GenSpark. We're going to show you some workflows that the kind of things that we're doing with the agents, and give you a little bit a deeper dive into what these agents can actually do, what our use cases are, and some definitions. Because the one thing we do know is there's going to be more and more different types of agents.
Yeah, periodically on the Daily AI Show, we do a show we call internally the Be About It show, because we don't want to just talk about it. We want to demonstrate that we actually use these tools that we're talking about. And importantly, sort of the central focus of this whole year has been agents, and agents have gotten really good, and they're still very early, and there's the worst they're going to be. And so we're going to show you some agent action that we've been working on. And you want to start, Junmi, or shall I go?
Go for it, Andy.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. But before we do, let me just say it's the beginning of August and people are starting to go back to school. It's August 1st, and this is the Daily AI Show. And here we go. It's a Be About It show. We're talking about agents. I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, let's get this going. And I'm going to show you this. So you have heard me talk about GenSpark, and you've heard me talk about, and we've talked about recently, the release of agent mode in ChatGPT. And I just came across an announcement from another company that's a really substantial company out there called Abacus. And they've just launched their AI agent package. And here's how they describe it: one AI assistant to rule them all. And this one doesn't use just one model. You can select the models that you want to use with their agent capabilities. And also, it'll pick the LLM that's appropriate to the agent task that you assign it. And the way you start out, just like in GenSpark, there's a thing called super agent. They have their deep agent, a God tier general purpose agent. And I wanted to point out Abacus because this is what I think the model is becoming for what agent platforms look like. They'll have an integration with your data sources like Google Drive, for example, and then they'll have all these different features. You can generate images right from the same super agent or deep agent prompt. It'll pick the model that'll do it best for whatever your prompt was. It'll generate videos from text for you. It's basically packaging together everything that's out there into tools that that agent can access and respond with. And that's really, I think, we've heard about deep research, for example. Here's a deep research capability. And you select, if you want to select one of these capabilities by generating great slide presentations, you can pick that particular function within Abacus. And here's the same thing in GenSpark. So in GenSpark, you have all of these different roles, but overseen by the super agent. So if you ask the super agent to build a slide deck, it's going to invoke the AI slides functionality that's built into this platform, which is basically just, starting out with a system prompt that really focuses the LLM on slide generation and provides examples to it. And it works really, really well. So for my first discussion here, I'm going to talk about a task that I have in front of me that I have asked GenMark Super Agent to do here in this prompt, but I haven't actually sent it in yet. And then I'm going to show you the very same prompt in ChatGPT's agent mode, which I kicked off last night to give you an illustration of what a more complete performance that took close to 30 minutes was on this particular prompt. But we're going to kick this one off. So let me tell you what the job is. Here's the job I have for this super agent. I've manufactured 500 boxed Oracle card decks, and I want to make them available for sale on a website with landing pages for customers coming from social media content ads, from a TikTok shop, and other ad placements you will recommend. I also want to make them available for sale on Amazon.com in the appropriate category, and I want to establish an Amazon seller account on Amazon.com, starting out by processing Amazon order fulfillment at home until the volume of orders makes it worthwhile to set up Amazon FBA and take advantage of Prime delivery. I need to understand the costs of an Amazon seller sale with FBA and with FBA to arrive without FBA and with FBA to arrive at a decision you support on whether or how to set up FBA for fulfillment and when, really. Okay, so the Oracle deck is on the theme of mystical horsemanship. And here's one of the top, this is the actual cover art that goes onto that Oracle deck. And this was done by my wife and the artist, Nika Quinn. There's no AI generated art in this one. It's all hand-drawn art. I think there's, 80 cards in the deck. It's been built painstakingly along with the associated sort of wonderful reference documents that go with each card that you read through in a little booklet that's included in the card deck. So this is the idea, and there's a lot involved in making this available for sale, and I want to do it professionally for them, and so I started out with this prompt, and that prompt goes on. But now let's go over to Chat GPT's same prompt, more detail beyond the context part of it. I explained a little bit about the nature of the Oracle deck to sort of align it with what the target market is. And I say, note, when it comes time for advertising the availability, I'll give you the full text, and we'll actually go through a content generation process to use content marketing to drive people to these various shopping carts on the various channels. And we'll have this e-commerce platform for a standalone website that you can use to place the orders if you want to just provide that URL to someone. So the final instructions are: analyze the best sales channels for this product, including those you surface in research, not just the ones I mentioned. Please rank order them by probable volume and rate each on ease of implementation. Prepare a go-to-market strategy around the top channels identified. And number 2, begin the process of setting up an Amazon seller account for the email andrewsbox@gmail.com. Okay, so it says it's going to do that. And it goes on. Here's the sales channel analysis. It gives top channel recommendations. Here's the go-to-market strategy. It gives a lot of really interesting and I'll say broadening information about what you need to do and how you should do it if you're going to set up an e-commerce operation. And it talks about post-launch optimization. And of course, we've put a placeholder in this agent's memory that we're going to do content marketing. And so it's going to start to develop, that process as next steps. And then one of the next actions it suggested here is begin creating short form video content to build anticipation and drive traffic to your landing pages. And I'm going to have this same agent do all of that. Okay, so then I said, before I begin with Amazon seller profile setup, explain how to do this on TikTok. So it gives me all the details about TikTok shop and steps to set up that and connect the Shopify backend shopping cart that I'm going to set up, or I'm going to have this agent set up rather. Now, let me point out that when it tried to proceed to setting up Amazon Seller Central for me, notice here it said, you attempted to open and register on Amazon, but the environment returned an error. Well, I actually knew this in advance. I knew that Amazon, among all of those various channels, has very aggressive blocking for any computer-driven interface. I had done an attempt to do an N8N automation to just look at and test pricing for products on a daily basis and fill out a spreadsheet. And it was not possible because you have to log in as a human. You know, they have those human tests. Are you a human? You have to log into Amazon as a human to access those accounts or set up an API account. And that API account setup as an Amazon seller is a very long and involved process that requires multiple weeks of back and forth with Amazon. So agents are not going to have easy access to Amazon. But I believe for every one of the other channels that we're talking about here, it will be fine. All right.
Right. And we'll see that as we'll most likely see that kind of connection or in the connectors that that the platforms seem to be adding. Right now, it seems to be all productivity, but do you imagine that we'll see things like Amazon and eBay and any other service that wants to take advantage of having agent access?
Yes, I expect that that will happen, but I also think it's possible that Amazon may say, oh, if you want to have automations and agents interact with your Amazon accounts, then you have to use an Amazon agent, right? Because Amazon's an AI company and Amazon will have their own agent out there to do this kind of process that we're trying to do here, which is to set up an Amazon seller account, set up Amazon Pay. And so let me just finalize on this one by saying on payment processing across multiple channels, you said use Shopify payments for website transactions, use Amazon Pay within the Amazon ecosystem, use Etsy payments for Etsy orders, and use TikTok payments, which uses Stripe. And and then avoid duplicated processors to minimize fees. But this sentence seems contradictory. It says apologizes for the confusion. I'll clarify. When you sell through different channels, each platform uses its own native payment system. So, in effect, you don't really have to worry about setting up a payment processor separately. I can use Shopify payments for both the website that we build and for anything that we would do through the Shopify Pay integrations across multiple websites. And we would want to, advertise on horsemanship related websites using the Shopify that also use Shopify in order to take advantage of that integration. So anyway, that's that. And then I want to just kick off the GenSpark one here, and we'll come back later and see what it looks like. But before we do, whenever you kick off an agent, this is what you'll see. It'll tell you what it's going to do, and then it'll present what it's doing. And it'll reveal its thinking if you ask it to. I can view what it's doing. It's looking at a bunch of different references over here on the right, and it's doing this very, very swiftly. So anyway, I just want to let you know that you can actually watch the agent do its work and examine its work. Anyway, that's me talking too long. And now I'll turn it over to Junmi to show what he's got going here.
No, Andy, we always appreciate it. I mean, I always enjoy your demos and technical breakdowns of what we're looking at for the day. Now, when I was approaching the show, I was looking at what angle could we take it at, and of all the agent information out there, there's plenty of people putting out direct workflows, and then other people are putting out demos and things like that. So for today, definitely gave a breakdown of what a couple of different options are. So you pointed out GenSpark, you pointed out agent mode, and then you pointed out.
What's going on there? I keep turning into Brian somehow.
Yeah. Don't worry about that. I'd put that under the settings change. But the try and get back on track there. Sorry about that. I wanted to make sure that we also did a breakdown of what what the different agents are now. So late 2024, people started talking that agents were going to be the big thing for 2025, and they certainly have. And with AI changing so much and so quickly, we've totally lost we lost what kind of classification or categorization agents are in, right? And what kind of things are actual agents. Now, I know when we discuss agents, we are talking about these generative agents that are these super agents, right? Generalized, can do pretty much everything. Take your instruction and then go do your work, right? Or go collect things for you and all of that. Having that reasoning plus the action part. But there is agency or agents basically can almost apply to pretty much anything that can take action, right? You give it the will, so to speak, the instruction, and then it'll go and complete things. So I wanted to give a quick primer of kind of where we're at in mid 2025 in all of the different types of agents. Right. So, like I said, Manus, GenSpark, the new agent mode from ChatGPT, these are categorized as general purpose super agents. Right. They do end-to-end task execution across various domains. Right. Turn ideas into action. The main mechanics they have is they have a multi-step planner plus their LLM, whichever LLM model they're using. They have cloud tool calling, right? And the projects are persistent. So that's essentially how you could break down what one of these super agents or general purpose agents are. Then, even almost a year back, we've heard of coding agents, right? This is like Devin. Not necessarily the same thing as a co-pilot, but within that same realm that's focused on coding and development and deployment of coding or developer agents. So Devin is an example of that. And what it can do is it plans, writes, tests, and deploys software. Right now rated as like a junior engineer. And the way that breaks down is you have the LLM, the model, plus whatever the editor or sandbox shell, this would be like GitHub or Git or things like that, plus whatever your browser is. And one of the nice things it has there is it's got long horizon planning, so it can break down what your application or whatever your project is. And after doing some research, this is an interesting take, is research and retrieval agents. Perplexity is considered a research and retrieval agent if we break down these categories. Because what it does is it performs the web search, it does your evidence gathering, it adds your citation, and essentially it is an LLM with access to various tools and RAG to bring in your information and then present it to you. So while Perplexity is one of the early examples of this, so in my mind didn't necessarily fit within an agent type of category, but because it has access to tools and then it goes out and does something for you with those tools and brings it back and then puts it all together for you, that's agent or agentic action. And so Perplexity is one of the earliest ones. One of the ones that I haven't worked with too much, and Andy, chime in if you've worked with any of these, is business process or CRM agents. So like Salesforce, right? And they have their Agent Force, class or categorization. And this is to automate all of the CRM, tickets, sales outreach, all of those kinds of components. And it seems to just be a model and built around the tools or API access that are wrapped around their specific domain. So we'll probably see more of those implemented, especially if you already are part of Salesforce or you have some other large CRM SaaS that you're using. And then my personal favorite are categorized as creative generation agents. And so this is things like Suno and Runway, where they can compose audio, video, design assets. They use multimodal diffusion and go out and perform your task or whatnot. Now, just to make sure I don't overcomplicate everything, there is a lot of these agentic features in these categories. So things like Runway and Suno, you might not think as an agent, but they're categorized in this list because they have these agentic qualities and what they're accessing. And then finally, workflow orchestration frameworks. Right. The biggest one that I work with is the AI agent nodes in N8N. Right. Zapier has theirs. Make recently introduced theirs as well, and these are usually forms of LangChain agents that are built for decision making and tool use and those kinds of things. And then it allows you to do lots of if then or find this information, then move that on to a different part of the workflow. These I find to be the easiest to work with because this is where you'll really start using your structured prompt frameworks, and you do your back and forth tweaking so that it gets your repetitive process. So those are some of my favorites right now. And so the reason I wanted to break it down like this is so that whenever you're hearing about agents and you want to hear about the next tool that comes out, because there's a new tool that comes out every single day regarding this, what to pay attention to and what is it going to be like when you're getting inundated with all of this new stuff. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to break that down. Now, Andy, you've shown us stuff with GenSpark, and if I understand right, that's like your current favorite, is because of its output. What I guess to reiterate, what makes it your favorite? Why is it just the output, the performance? What are the elements that have really shown out to you?
Yeah, so GenSpark impressed me several months ago now, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, by doing a really thorough job on one of the very first tasks that I gave it. And at the time, with almost all of these agents, you don't have unlimited free use of them. So you run in immediately, especially if you're doing a complex project with it, you run pretty quickly into the limit of your credits that are given to you free. And you basically have to upgrade in order to continue to use the agent. And so it was just clear to me that it was doing way more, much more quickly than I could do by having to write very specific prompts in the LLMs directly. Although, I do want to say that a lot of the things that I've demonstrated, like this past Monday, I demonstrated the generation of a taxonomy and then the building of a website, basically, that's now on GitHub and you can get to if you join our community and go to the Sensei channel. So I put my GitHub page up there so you can actually go and use that taxonomy of all AI subjects. Well, I had been doing that back in 2023, early 2023, using the early forms of ChatGPT. And because LLMs have an enormous, reservoir of information that's been encoded into the deep neural network, they can analyze that and create a comprehensive hierarchical taxonomy of what it knows. And that's a really useful step in for many purposes, whether for education or to understand what the full range of topics, subtopics, and facets are of anything that you're trying to explore, whether that's a work related issue or it's something else. So the capabilities have always been there, but what's new and impressive is that GenSpark, uh, among the leaders early on, months ago now, doing things like ChatGPT agent mode is starting to do, uh, has been building around that agentic capability. And there's a lot of new features. They've expanded the number of integrations that you can have. Like on my one particularly here, let me share my screen again, and we'll open up GenSpark again, and we can compare the output of Chat GPT agent mode to GenSpark. And my first cursory view of what GenSpark did in a fraction of the time is that it's really more in line with what I was looking for, and the presentation quality was better. So I just think it's matured beyond where OpenAI's internal team developed agent mode on top of all of the other features of ChatGPT, and it's not quite there yet. But I think it'll match and potentially in the future supersede GenSpark. But right now, I chose to get an annual
Cool.
subscription to GenSpark. So I'm not just using it casually. It's my go-to
Hmm.
because I now have a full annual subscription to it. And the more you use a platform, the more familiar you are with it, and the more individually productive you'll be with that platform. So trying to learn the vagaries of whatever ChatGPT agent mode is, and how to make that work with my source documents and to put information back into my source documents. There's some setup and configuration things involved there. So that's why it's my favorite. I'm not
Hmm.
saying that GenSpark is the end all and be all, but it's very good, and it's certainly sufficient for the kinds of things that I'm doing right now.
Well, I think an annual subscription purchase is definitely a comment on how much you do like it, because with so many services and tools coming out, it's really hard to say, oh yeah, go ahead and buy this for a whole year, this is what you're going to need, and then some other new service or some better version comes out. And so you willing to buy an annual subscription, that is kudos to them.
Yeah, and I've used it extensively. Let me just show you what that looks like. So
So
here,
while you're bringing that up really quickly, quick question. You mentioned credits and running through them fairly quickly. Since you have the annual, is that do you are you hitting up those credit limits? Are there daily credit limits, or are you or do they just give you a giant pool of credits and you're just
it's
burning
just
through them?
it's a very substantial pool of credits, and I think it's if I were to run out of them,
Hmm.
I could have the option of actually buying additional credits on top of the annual subscription, but I don't think I'm going to run out of them. I think it's thus far anyway. I haven't run
Gotcha.
into any limitations using GenSpark. Okay, so now you're looking at this is the output of this multi-channel e-commerce strategy for the Mystical Horsemanship Oracle deck. And so it first starts out with a go-to-market strategy. It ranks the various platforms, and this is the implied order in which I should set them up. And it then says, here's and this was not a part of it's a small thing, but it's basically saying, okay, if I'm going to do this for you, I'm going to stage it this way. Okay, we're going to first do Amazon, Etsy, and set up the Shopify store. and the attendant website as well. We have to build that. And then later we'll add TikTok, Instagram, and social media content creation. So it really understood the phasing that I implied in the prompt. And later it said, okay, we'll go to Facebook Marketplace and then do evaluation. There was none of this is why I like GenSpark is just even that reference to evaluate performance and scale successful channels. That wasn't a part of ChatGPT's response. It it did a nice job. It gave me specific instructions about how to go around it. But then look, GenSpark actually says, okay, this is probably like most. Did some research about Oracle cards and comes back with the approximate weight, the dimensions, and the selling price ranges. Okay, great, thank you. And here's what are the details of what it's going to cost me on this. And it comes with all of this information and tells me what I ought to put together in order to manage an e-commerce operation like this. Gives me a little diagram of the system architecture. Honestly, this is more in keeping with what I expect from a really competent assistant. And it gives me product category recommendations for each of these things. Wow. So then it says, oh, you please clarify, do you have an LLC? Do you have UPC codes? It was just substantially better in many ways than what ChatGPT's agent mode did for me.
Okay. Yeah, when I did my test, I did Manus, GenSpark, and Agent Mode, just because those are the most popular ones right now, and the most recent one with Agent Mode, and just see what the output was. And I know we had our original or our initial reactions to it. Let me go ahead and pop up what I ran through, and we will. I want to show. Let's see here. I want to show. There we go. I want to show what the result I got from each of them, and I'm going to propose a question at the end for you, Andy. Let me bring these up. Okay, so this is what I ran through for Manus. Okay, so I gave it a fairly day-to-day prompt that anybody would just add in there, simple, unstructured, and ask what we're looking for, right?
And what does that say that out loud for people who don't have a
Okay.
GPT
So
training?
basically, I wanted to test the creative, a use case from the creative world, right? This is what you're going to see from a marketing team or something along those lines. So I came up with a fake company, wanted a launch kit for a new product, and what are the elements that I want from it, right? So the launch kit should include mood images, an ad concept with music, voiceover ideas, create a tiny landing page snippet, social posts, and then of course I want a list of all the files so that I can put them in a brief or whatnot. And so so Manus took that, started planning, breaking down what it thought that it wanted from my prompt, right? So research and gather mood images, then create an ad concept with music, and then developing the landing page, file organization, and then go ahead and schedule the launch party invite. So so you can see, like pretty much every other agent, it breaks down what it's doing, what it's creating, then goes through and asked me a question, and I had to ask whether, or it asked me, did you want a male voice for the voiceover or a female voice? So I chose female voice, and we continued from there. It actually created a WAV file for the voice. I really do want to dive in and see what is its tool set and what is it actually using for the generation. So I'll have to investigate that more down the line. But I found it impressive that it actually did go out, use a tool to create an AI voice for that. Um, then we can see as it goes through each of its steps, what it had planned out. And then finally, it comes down to what the launch party invite is. Then it gives me a response. It's like, oh, here's everything, and all of the files and everything like that. So let's take a quick. Well, actually, I probably can't.
You're back. Well, we lost Junie there for a moment, but he's back now.
And it didn't.
Come back. There you are.
There we go. All right, we're bringing everybody. Yeah, live, everybody, live. All right. Let me share the tab that I'm working with. Then I guess.
While he's preparing that, let me just say that this happens to us. I don't know, at least every other show where this platform that we're using, streamlabs.com, just for no apparent reason, knocks us off the stream. And it's not like it closes down the stream, it just knocks us off. And then we have to institute ourselves in the
Right.
in the feed. So anyway, we just went through one of those hiccups again.
All righty. So what I wanted to do is reshare it so I can share the audio tab, and I just want to make sure. Can you hear this?
Every step we
Yes.
take leaves a mark. What if it could be a lighter one? Introducing TerraStep, designed for your journey, crafted for our planet. Feel the difference of nature's embrace with every stride. Sustainable style, uncompromised comfort. TerraStep, step lightly, live fully. TerraStep.
All right, and so that sounds like add copy, and I just put that onto a video, and we definitely have that ad running on whether the landing page or through the marketing team's advertising push, things like that. So I thought that was interesting. I didn't explicitly say make a video, so I'll have to do further testing on that to see if I can force it to try and make a video, or it may not just have that capabilities. Though I did recently see that other platforms have specifically pointed out that they can do video now. Now, the other thing I wanted to show is all of the documents that Manus is doing. And a lot of this they're all just Google Docs or text files that we can look through. There's a few explanation of the images, but I don't actually get to see the images that it's using for the mood board. So not exactly what I was asking for. But with an unstructured prompt, is this indicative of these models? Now, the main reason I want to point it out is because I wanted to compare it to what I got from GenSpark as well. And so this is what I got. This is how GenSpark decided to show my launch kit. It gave me the landing page. It gave me the images in line. It gave me campaign visuals, and funny enough, it gave me background music.
So play the voiceover too to see how it
Every step matters. TerraStep Eco Sneakers, where sustainability meets style. Made from 100% recycled materials, designed for the conscious consumer.
So
let me just comment on that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, the one that came from Manus, the voiceover, it was like just saying the word TerraStep over and in an unusual way that doesn't sound to me like a professional voice track for an advertisement. Whereas I think GenSpark's was. much more in keeping with what I would expect as the voiceover for a visual for a brand like that.
Yeah, and what it impressed me here is this presentation, because this is definitely I could package this up really easily, or even send this off to whatever team that needs this essential this information, and then they can start working on it, tweaking it, or we can go back and forth on developing more. I think of the two, I'm in agreement with you, Andy. GenSpark's a far better export. Now, here's the real question that I have for you, and I'll go ahead and stop sharing this. Um, so I produce this through using an unstructured prompt, right? I wanted to test what's the average person gonna type into the prompt, without I want specifically breaking down. And I know you used fairly detailed structured prompts. Now, I did come up with a structured prompt, but I didn't like the results from that, and that's probably because I just need to develop that a little better. But I was impressed with uh, how much filling the gaps of intent that I could get from both of these agents, and of course the GenSpark one for my taste came out better. But in your testing, are you seeing better results from your structured prompt over the unstructured?
Well, I'd hardly call what I did structured prompt. I did use some markdown to sort of separate the sections and to create a hierarchy. So like with those hashtags, a single hashtag is a sort of a header section. A double would be a child of that single prior hashtag. So I'm just saying, here's all the context, and then I move on to instructions. It's not exactly a structured prompt. It's mostly just natural language. And I think the takeaway from this is you don't need to do what I did. If I took out all those hashtags, you'd say, well, he just did a long rambling prompt. And that's the way we talk to our assistants, right? Oh yeah, let me remember this part and throw it in here. It doesn't have to be in order. The models now are very adept at taking whatever you have and going through the planning and thinking steps to expand upon that. And they can ask you questions for clarification if you've been ambiguous or self-contradictory. So I, I want everyone to know that you don't need to do a structured prompt on this. And I went back and added a little bit of separation, because as I was describing the sort of the range of the task without being fully exhaustive, I felt like I needed to go back and just break it up a little bit so that the agent would know that, hey, this little thing that I wrote about here, just off the top of my head, that's for later. We're going to do content marketing later. So I put that in as a note. I said, look, note. And when you do that, I think that kind of triggers the agent to say, okay, this is just an observation or a commentary. It's not an instruction. And then I clearly labeled what I wanted it to do now as instructions. But I did that as an afterthought. I could have left all that out and it probably would have done exactly the same thing.
Gotcha. All right. So Andy, you ran us through so a GenSpark uh, your output for GenSpark. Do you have a particular use case or example of what you'd like to use, either whether it's a workflow or another one of these super agents or anything along those lines?
Yeah, I have one other one that I can show you that I'm using right now. But I wanted to first make a point about the the advent of operator type actions, meaning, before I would use GenSpark and I still use GenSpark just out of habit to do the research and give me specific instructions on how to go about doing something with lots of, related information. And it gives me information that I wouldn't have, been able to ask for because I didn't know it existed, but it knows is relevant to the question that I'm pursuing. All of that's very, very helpful. But we're approaching a time when, as I asked GenSpark to do, now go and set up the Amazon seller account, or now go up and set up the TikTok shop. And then the agents are soon going to be able to go back and forth with you saying, okay, now I need you to provide take over. That function exists, like says, take over now and log into this, and then I'll take it back and continue to work on it. That operator type action through the browser on your behalf, I am not currently taking full advantage of, and I haven't tested it to the point where I can even speak knowledgeably about how to do it if you wanted to do it. But that's the next wave. And what Junmi did included a few things where it needed to go out and do something, right? It had to interact with other services in effect to do it. So his was a better example of doing that. Mine actually got flummoxed by going over to Amazon, which had a big firewall up there and said, no, we're not letting robots come in here and create an account. And for good reason, right? Because otherwise, agents could be out there building lots of spurious accounts. But it's also for anti-competitive reasons. And so that. But let me share one last one, just as an example of the kind of thing I use GenSpark for. And give me a second to share my screen. And it gives me a bunch of different clicks that are required here. So this is, as you know, the tax credits available for energy investments in your home are expiring thanks very little to the current administration. They curtailed the availability of tax incentives to do energy efficiency improvements 3 years before the prior legislation allowed. So now there's a mad rush to do solar installations, to do heat pump installations, etc., to take advantage of the current tax credits. So I asked it, okay, I live in Santa Cruz County, California. Prepare a list of the clean energy tax incentives I can still take advantage of now, what their expiration date is under the new tax and spending, big, bad, bitchy bill, what the form of the tax break is and its amount. I'm not interested in automotive. Please focus on home energy efficiency tax incentives. So it does the research and comes back with, here's the federal tax credits available through December 31, 2025, the energy home improvement credit. Here's what expires. Here's what you can build with it. You can do heat pumps. The residential clean energy credit, it also expires December 31. You can do solar electric panels, solar water heaters, and you get 30% of whatever you invested in that equipment and its installation as a tax credit in that year that you make those investments. So it's a really big incentive to do this kind of work. So then here's California state and local urgent action required. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act is significantly accelerated expiration dates. So get going. The installation time. By the way, I contacted, I'm not going to read through everything here, but I immediately contacted the local installers and the recommended companies. I'm scrolling through these here now. So back and forth with the agent, it had offered different heat pump solutions that required a ducted system. But I said, hey, I don't have ducts in my house. So it updates the recommendations for ductless mini split heat pumps. But way, way down here, notice that the context window for this is really quite huge. Here's the battery storage systems. And all the way down here, it gives me the very specific options about what I can put in both the ADU that's on my property as well as in the main house. And it gives me a bunch of different, way down here, if I can ever get there. Oh, here, finally down here, we got to the context length exceeded, open a new session. So that gives you an idea of the kind of heavy duty lifting and background research work. To close that discussion off, I'll just say that over the course of the past 2 days, I've hosted on-site meetings from the recommended installers that GenSpark gave me that are within the local region here, who came out to my home and have really incredible software themselves that's quite agentic to specify what they recommend as the actual installation, the actual placement of the panels on your roof, the configuration of the backup battery systems, etc. I couldn't go through that process nearly as quickly as I am doing right now under the time pressure that's created, because one of the first and the highest recommended local installers is booked out through the end of the year. They said, sorry, we can't help you. And so I had to go a little bit farther afield, but also got GenSpark recommendations to conclude that. It's my right hand person, like to do the heavy duty things that I have to do household things, to do, let's call it, entrepreneurial things like in my household,
Right.
the things I want to build. All of these things are being accelerated dramatically by the agents that I'm using.
So just to, I guess we'll end on this framing here. The biggest thing that we're seeing that agents are performing this work, based on our prompts and querying, is the amount, the speed in which to do so many tasks and so many in-depth tasks. And like you said earlier, they're just going to become more and more useful and be able to do more and more. Now, if we're taking a snapshot right now, Andy, what is your experience with how much time is being saved, right? Like one of the big things when like ChatGPT was first introduced and other LLMs and things like that was our ability to go, this is how much time I'm taking now. And then it's going, then with ChatGPT or another tool similar AI, I'm able to do the same amount of work, but in X amount of time. And it shaved off, we've talked about so many hours per week, or my productivity, I was able to get done in, a tenth of the time, those kinds of things. Now with this GenSpark agent and the demo that she showed, that's a lot of research. That's a lot of tracking down stuff. How much more of a productivity bump or a time savings bump are you getting now that you have GenSpark, as opposed to even just using a base foundational LLM?
Yeah, from my personal point of view, it's less about it's very obvious that I couldn't have gone onto Google and started doing searches and reading. GenSpark does a lot of reading at the outset. It reads full pages out there. It finds the pages, it goes and gets them, it reads them and digests that, puts that into its context memory, and then does analysis and reasoning on that, and then delivers recommendations, including very specific product selections and service provider selections. I mean, that would have taken me 3 days, if like literally maybe something on the order of 20 or 30 hours of research to do what GenSpark delivers back to me as a starting point in 30 minutes. So the time compression is extraordinary because of the speed of analysis, speed of collection and analysis of vast arrays of data. But what it really does is it makes it possible for me to know a lot more about things than I would have ever discovered on my own, even if I invested the time. Because I don't really have, a human doing search on the web is doing it in a serial fashion, but GenSpark does it parallel. So it's going down a bunch of different paths at the same time. And as a result of that, you get a much broader view, a more complete view than you would have gotten yourself even if you hadn't invested the 10x, number of hours that you complete the job with while using the agent.
I mean, that sounds. I think that's just an indicator of what we're going to see, as we continue. Right? We've seen those estimations where we just get hockey sticks in terms of what we're going to see from AI. So,
with that, yeah, let's wrap it up. Did you have anything final that you wanted to say?
I think that's about it. So, thank you everybody for joining us. We always appreciate seeing you in there. I know we've had a few technical glitches for today's show. What it just means is, it wants us to all four of us or all five of us to be here, and when it's only two, it gets sad. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. We have a fun weekend planned for everyone. And that's the conundrum and the newsletter. So if you haven't signed up for that already, head over to thedailyaishow.com and you can sign up for that newsletter. The conundrum comes out every Saturday. And if you want to continue the conversation and get and converse and talk to another huge group of wonderful people, that is our chatters, head over to our community Slack, which is dailyaishowcommunity.com, and you can sign up for that. With that, we'll call it good for the week, and we'll see you all Monday. Aloha.